You know, there's something almost no one has the courage to say out loud. An uncomfortable truth, almost forbidden. Maybe love, this feeling we place on a pedestal that we swear is pure, sacred, absolute, might actually be nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. Worse yet, an illusion we've blindly accepted without question. Yeah, I know, it sounds absurd, maybe even offensive to some. But tell me, honestly, how many times have you asked yourself if what you feel is truly love, or just a need disguised as poetry? Your entire life, they've told you that love is something noble, that it's natural, that it just happens, that it blooms and fills every emptiness in your existence. But what if I told you that this might be a lie you've been telling yourself, just to avoid staring into an abyss far scarier? This isn't just my idea, it's not some cheap cynicism. The one who first dared to ask this question was none other than René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy. Yes, the Descartes, the one who said, "I think, therefore I am." Descartes believed that everything that doesn't withstand doubt must be questioned, absolutely everything. And here's the uncomfortable question. If he doubted reality, his senses, the world, even his own existence, what do you think he would say about love? Is love, as we've been taught, actually real? Or is it just a mental construction, a psychological arrangement designed to shield us from the terrifying reality that, deep down, we are creatures condemned to live trapped inside the solitude of our own minds? The answer might be more disturbing than you imagine. To understand where this reflection starts, we need to go back a few centuries, straight into the restless mind of René Descartes. And let's be clear, this wasn't just any thinker. Descartes didn't accept easy answers. He rejected pre-made truths. He looked at reality and said, if I can doubt it, it's not truth. Now imagine applying that to your life today. Everything, absolutely everything, gets questioned. Your job, your beliefs, your emotions, and yes, even what you call love. Descartes lived in a time when everything was explained by tradition, by religion, by authority, and he threw all of that in the trash. He stared at the world and said, no, I will only accept as true that which I absolutely cannot doubt. And that is where things start to get deeply uncomfortable, because he realized almost everything can be doubted. Your senses can deceive you. What you see, hear, feel could be an illusion. Your thoughts, your memories, your certainties could be fragile constructions built by a mind desperately trying to convince itself that life makes sense. And then comes the inevitable question, if I can doubt the world, can I also doubt love? Think about it. Love. This feeling we're told is the greatest truth of existence. Does it truly withstand doubt? Or is it just a reflection of our need? A sophisticated trick of the mind? To avoid facing an emptiness, that's far more terrifying. Descartes would take this reflection to the limit, and maybe, so will you. Because when you start doubting love, it's not love that collapses, it's your entire idea of yourself. And here comes the most brutal question of all. If love is just a construction, who are you? Without it, take a deep breath, because from this point on, it's going to hurt. If Descartes taught us to question everything that doesn't survive doubt, then we must apply that same gaze to love. And when we do, something unsettling appears. The first question is simple, but devastating. Do you actually love the person in front of you? Or do you simply love the idea your mind has created about them? Think about it. When you look at someone you claim to love, are you truly seeing them? Or are you seeing a mosaic of expectations, desires, needs, and projections that you yourself built? And no, this isn't just cheap philosophy. A study from Harvard University on perception in relationships concluded that most of what we call love has far more to do with idealization than with truly perceiving the other person. The brain, when, in love, literally shuts down areas responsible for critical thinking. In other words, you become blind, but not blind from love, blind from need. And here, Descartes whispers in our ear, if you only see what you want to see, then what exactly is real? Could it be that love is nothing more than a mirror that doesn't reflect the other, but instead reflects your own hunger, your own emotional starvation, your desperate quest for meaning? Maybe love isn't about seeing the other person. Maybe it's just a sophisticated way to try to find yourself, to try to fill that existential void that screams the loudest when you're alone. Alone with your thoughts, alone with your insecurities, alone with your own mortality. And then comes the cruelest blow. If what you love is actually a mental construction, what happens when that construction starts to collapse? When you realize the person isn't what your mind had idealized, you already know the answer. Frustration, disappointment, pain, and Descartes, cold and merciless, would say without hesitation, the pain doesn't come from love. It comes from the illusion you created about love. So let me ask you, do you really know the person you love? Or are you simply seeing what your mind allows you to see? Be honest. How many times have you looked at someone you thought you loved and deep down realized that what truly tied you to them wasn't them, but the story you told yourself about who you wanted them to be? The truth, however uncomfortable, is this. Most of the time, love isn't a meeting. It's a projection. It's like throwing a movie onto the other person's face. And as long as the film is interesting, you stay there, hypnotized, believing that this is love. But what happens when the movie ends, when the plot falls apart, when the characters reveal they were never who you imagined? That's when the crash comes. The disappointment, the classic, "You're not who I thought you were." But the real question isn't about them, it's about you. Who told you? They were supposed to be what you imagined. Descartes would say, what we perceive isn't the world as it is. It's the world as our mind filters it. And if that's true for reality, imagine how much more true it is for love. Maybe love isn't about knowing someone else. Maybe it's actually a sophisticated game where we use others as emotional mirrors, an elegant way to avoid looking inward, because looking inward is far scarier. And that's when you realize just how big the trap really is. The love you feel may not be about the other person at all. It may be entirely about you and about your unconscious desperation to find outside of yourself what's missing within. And if by now you've realized that love is often nothing more than a mental construction, then an even more uncomfortable question appears. If we know, even unconsciously, that this is an illusion, why do we keep choosing to suffer? The answer is simple and cruel, because suffering, within this logic, isn't an accident. It's part of the invisible contract you signed without reading the fine print. Society, movies, books, songs, all sold you the idea that love is logical, that you should choose someone compatible, that you should look for shared values, common goals, and life plans. And if you do everything right, love will function like a perfect, well-balanced equation. But then you discover it doesn't work. Even when the logic is perfect, when the compatibility is there, when the interests align, when everything seems to fit, it still hurts, it still breaks, and it breaks bad. Do you know why? Because love was never a rational equation. Love isn't logical. It's a system of emotional compensation, of needs disguised as poetry, of expectations dressed up as promises, And if Descartes were sitting in front of you right now, he would look you dead in the eyes and say without hesitation, you suffer in love, not because you chose wrong, but because you chose to believe it was possible to love without paying the price of your own illusions. And do you want to know the cruelest part? The mind loves this game. Because deep down, suffering confirms something very comforting. I'm someone willing to love. I'm someone sensitive, deep, intense. And that feeds your emotional ego. It's like whispering to yourself, look how good I am. Look how much I give. Look how much I suffer. But this story never ends well. Because while you try to fit love into logic, love keeps slipping through your fingers. Because it never wanted to be logical. It was always a mirror of your own emptiness. And maybe, deep down, you're not even looking for love. You're looking for anesthesia. A beautiful anesthesia to numb the unbearable pain of existing. And now, after tearing everything apart, the most honest and painful question of all emerges. If love is, at least, in large part, an illusion, then why do we keep loving? Why, knowing that we project, idealize, distort? Do we still crave this experience, like oxygen? And here, Descartes whispers in our ear once more. When he said, I think, therefore I am, he wasn't just affirming that thought is proof of existence. He was also revealing a quiet condemnation. To exist is by nature a solitary act. Think about it. You can doubt the world. You can doubt people. You can doubt your memories, even your own senses. But there's one thing you cannot doubt, that there is something inside of you that doubts, that thinks, that observes. And here lies the great tragedy of consciousness. We are alone, inside our own minds, and love, as poetic as it sounds, is nothing more than a desperate attempt to break that invisible barrier between self and other. Even knowing that we will never truly know the other completely, we keep trying. Because deep down, love isn't about finding the other, it's about escaping, even if just for a moment, the unbearable weight of being a prisoner inside your own mind. And that is where life hands us its most cruel, and at the same time, most beautiful paradox. Love is a necessary illusion. Yes, a necessary illusion, so that life doesn't become nothing more than a mere exercise in survival. We love, even knowing that love is imperfect, even knowing it's full of gaps, projections, and static, because love is the only way we make this solitude a little more bearable. It's a lie that we choose to tell, because without it, maybe nothing else would make sense. But what if Descartes was wrong? What if the problem wasn't love, nor the other person, but the way we learn to look at it? Maybe the problem isn't loving. Maybe the real mistake is loving without awareness, without seeing how much we project, distort, and drag our own ghosts onto someone else. When Descartes proposed doubting everything, he wasn't trying to destroy the world. He wanted to purify it of illusions. He wanted us to find a truth that's more solid, more honest, more real. And maybe real love starts right here, in the moment, when you accept that you will never fully know the other person. In the instant when you finally understand that love isn't about capturing or controlling or filling your own emptiness. It's about choosing to walk side by side, even knowing that there will always be an abyss between you and the other. that can never be fully crossed. Love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. It only needs to be conscious. Maybe the truth isn't about destroying the illusion. It's about learning to love, knowing it's there. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. Seriously, not everyone has the courage to face this kind of reflection. Most people would rather live inside the stories they created without ever questioning them. But you didn't. You looked inward, and maybe, from this moment forward, you'll never look at love the same way again. So tell me, to you, is love a truth or a necessary illusion? If this conversation made sense to you or shook you in any way, leave a comment below. I really want to know what you think. And of course, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, because here we don't sell easy answers, we search together for better questions.